The laws of civilization building are analogous to the physical laws of the universe, but govern civilizations, the artificial constructs of intelligent species, rather than nature. They are as immutable and universal for civilizations as physical laws are for the universe. Just as the universe cannot exist without the laws of physics, civilizations cannot exist without the laws of civilization. This is true not only here on Earth, but on any life-sustaining planet inhabited by species sufficiently intelligent to erect civilizations. Whereas the laws of physics make the universe possible by governing matter, energy, gravity, motion, and force, the laws of civilization make civilization possible by governing resources, people, equilibrium, progress, science, and technology. In fact, what matter is for the laws of physics, resources are for the laws of civilization. What energy is for the laws of physics, people are for the laws of civilization. What gravity is for the laws of physics, equilibrium, defined as balance between people and resources, is for the laws of civilization. What motion is for the laws of physics, progress is for the laws of civilization. And what force is for the laws of physics, science and technology are for the laws of civilization. Civilization is a scaled-down model of the universe designed for the needs of a single species. It is an artificial ecosystem built on top of the natural ecosystems of a life-sustaining planet. In 2018, I formulated and published the first 4 laws of civilization building. They are: number 1, limit the quantity of life to improve the quality, and do it selectively to aid and accelerate the process of natural selection and improve the intelligence and genetic makeup of the stock. This first law enables civilizations to produce surplus food and invest more resources in every individual, therefore improving the human condition and the potential of every human being. It also prevents wasting precious natural, financial, and human resources on raising and educating people with little to no potential of contributing anything of value to society and who would otherwise be burdens on their immediate family members, communities, and society at large. To accomplish the first law of civilization building, mankind had to create social, political, spiritual, and military institutions. Law number 2. Slow down population growth to remain within the technical ability of society to produce food and build infrastructure, and do it by any means necessary, because failing to do it will have only negative consequences. This second law enables civilizations to escape the poverty trap and the cycle of famine and war by limiting population growth so it does not exceed the ability of society to extract resources, a particularly difficult task during the time when all labor was done by human hand or by animal power, and considering that populations grew geometrically while food production increased arithmetically. It therefore provides social stability and peaceful coexistence, the preconditions for progress and prosperity. To accomplish the second law of civilization building, mankind had to evolve a social conscience and create organized religions, nation-states, the UN system, global networks of resource sharing, and military-industrial complexes. Law number 3. Once a civilization gets close to its planet's carrying capacity, it has to stabilize its population in perpetuity at a level that is sustainable, so the planet's life support systems are not damaged, in which case intelligent life would unintelligently sow the seeds of its own destruction. This third law allows civilizations to avoid ecological collapse and self-destruction by establishing a state of equilibrium between civilization and the ecosystems it inhabits, and ensuring its long-term viability and survival by safeguarding the planet's ability to sustain life. To accomplish it, however, mankind has to abandon all existing systems, be they political, economic, spiritual, social, or military, because they are obsolete and prevent us from developing a global consciousness, an awareness of our shared humanity and interconnectedness with nature. An appendage no one is born with, but henceforth no one will die without. And act accordingly. To develop a global consciousness, humankind must abandon the nation state and form a global government or a planetary well-being authority to legislate and implement a population stabilization law. This, in turn, requires a superior and universal religion, sanctum, to educate, nurture, and acculturate the population into a planetary civilization capable of the moral imperative and ethical dimension of genetic sentience, the ability to care for future generations as much as for our own and ourselves. If we succeed in creating the prerequisite systems that can enable us to accomplish the third law of civilization building, we will have the breathing space and elbow room of a sustainable civilization and the instruments necessary to rise to the level of the fourth law of civilization building. Conversely, if we do not succeed, mankind will self-destruct through resource depletion, nuclear annihilation, environmental destruction, or all of the above. Law number 4. Once a state of harmony is reached between civilization and nature, all subsequent progress depends on society's abilities to reduce the number of people in direct but inverse proportion with the per capita increase in the consumption of resources, and this reduction has to be accomplished with everyone's free and conscious collaboration. In other words, the more technologically advanced our civilization becomes, the fewer people can be accommodated on planet Earth, and all people must contribute to mankind's reduction in numbers to enable mankind's ascension in level of civilization. The fourth law allows civilizations to perpetually and peacefully evolve and reach ever higher standards of living, technological capabilities, ethical standards, social values, and spiritual abilities without shattering the hard-won equilibrium between civilization and nature. Our species is now struggling to stabilize the global population at a level that is sustainable. We are, in other words, trying to accomplish the requirements of the third law of civilization building. And we have until 2050 to do so, since that is the time when we will run out of fossil fuels, and hence the time by which we must transition to renewable energy sources. If we do not manage to reduce the global population to circa 6 billion by 2050, we will not achieve full transition to renewables, and our civilization will collapse and may never recover, in which case we will not get to even attempt to reach the fourth law of civilization building, but fall back to the level of the second law, or self-destruct. If we succeed, however, we can embark on the fourth law, and we will have until circa 2150 to reduce the population to 2 billion and create universal prosperity. Thus, a standard of living currently reserved to about 10% of the global population, without destabilizing the state of harmony between civilization and nature. But what comes next? What law will enable us to ascend to an even higher level of civilization by preventing our stagnation and inevitable fallback to a lower level or to self-destruction? For just as entropy occurs in nature, so it does in civilization without continuing progress, the superior use of people and resources that enables ascension. The answer is intelligence, but not just any kind of intelligence, but geoethical intelligence, both at the individual and societal level. Therefore, this is the fifth law of civilization building. To sustain mankind's uninterrupted ascension in level of civilization for centuries and millennia on end, through the gradual and voluntary reduction in the number of people in inverse proportion with the per capita increase in the consumption of resources, it is necessary to socially and genetically engineer a steady increase in general intelligence, both fluid and crystallized, to raise the median intelligence quotient, IQ, sufficiently high to reach the capacity for geoethical intelligence in the conduct of people and, most importantly, embedded in the very structure of civilization. Mankind's average intelligence is 100 IQ. While the brain's innate capacity appears not to have changed much for millennia, there has been a consistent rise in average IQ of circa 3 points per decade in the 20th century alone, due to changes in society that have fostered more complex ways of thinking and due to improvements in the standard of living and nutrition. This century-long rise, known as the Flynn effect, has unfortunately ended in the 1990s and has gone into reverse, not due to the limits of the human brain, as the establishment of power would have it, and as their propaganda and false science assert, but due to the intellectual and genetic damage caused by the use of covert methods of depopulation, primarily the mass poisoning with endocrine disruptors for sterilization purposes. This sublethal chemical poisoning over multiple generations is the primary reason for the decline in intelligence. The secondary reason for this decline in intelligence is the misguided practice of saving every life, however deficient, and of allowing everyone, however defective, to procreate. The third reason applies only to cultures that allow consanguineous marriages, an abhorrent social practice that has devastated the intellectual and genetic endowment of Muslims in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. It is in fact why the Islamic civilization lost its intellectual preeminence and has been declining since the 13th century. The establishment of power is keenly aware that the decrease in intelligence condemns democracies to becoming idiocracies, a fait accompli in the United States. I suspect that the strategy of vaccinating billions of people with mRNA vaccines, which are depopulation weapons, under the pretext of a pandemic, was not only a desperate attempt to stabilize the population across the G20 nations by sterilizing the young and euthanizing the old, but also a method by which to give the intelligent a chance to survive and procreate while weeding out the unintelligent. Incidentally, if all 67% of the global population who received COVID vaccines around the world were to die as a result, and assuming that they are the least intelligent people on the planet, the median intelligence of mankind would rise by about 20%, an increase that would lead to a leap in our evolution as a species and civilization. One can only wonder if the decision to leave mRNA vaccines in place, despite widespread knowledge that they are depopulation weapons, is motivated by the desire to exterminate as many remaining idiots as possible. One thing is certain: accomplishing the requirements of the third law of civilization building, let alone the fourth, is impossible if the average intelligence of mankind remains as it is, since geoethics cannot be acquired by unintelligent beings. And since we must reduce the population down to 6 billion by 2050 to make it past the end of oil, 4 billion by 2100 to reach sustainability, and 2 billion by 2150 to enable universal prosperity, the intelligent thing to do is to eliminate the least intelligent among us, as that would greatly increase our chances to reach these extraordinarily difficult goals. By accomplishing the fifth law of civilization building, our species will become indistinguishable from nature and prove to other intelligences in the universe that we are sufficiently wise to earn the right and privilege of inhabiting other planets in the universe that can sustain life. For only a species capable of erecting a civilization indistinguishable from nature will be allowed to inhabit other planets in the universe if they are sufficiently young to be devoid of homegrown intelligent life. Any dreams of becoming a multiplanetary species are premature so long as we have not accomplished the requirements of the fifth law of civilization building. Fortunately, we have about 500 million years, absent an unforeseen cosmic event, until the sun's increasing brightness as it decays into a red giant makes life on Earth impossible for complex life. That should be more than enough time.